Folks, Canadian Prepper here. A quick World War III update for you today. What you are seeing behind me here is a convoy of Yars intercontinental ballistic nuclear missiles being paraded through the streets of Moscow. Unfortunately, it's not one of those fun-loving military parades. God knows what it is exactly. This footage was allegedly taken within the last 24 hours, but I cannot attest to the validity of the claims of the posters who are circulating it on Twitter as we speak. Regardless, the time and date that this was posted, whether it was today, a week ago, a year ago, is wholly irrelevant in light of what has happened today, okay? Something of great significance has just happened, and most people do not realize how significant. Vladimir Putin has now officially suspended participation in the Strategic Arms Reduction Nuclear Treaty between Russia and the United States. Now, for most people, all that means is, well, the United States and Russia can build many, many nukes for many, many decades from here on in. We're going to see a new arms race, more nuclear weapons, more deployment systems, yada, yada, yada. But there is a far more imminent and ominous threat that just presented itself that most people don't realize. Under the New START Treaty, the Russians had to inform the Americans as to the destination of their ICBMs, their mobile ICBMs, for which we have no functional equivalent. The Russians put all of their nuclear weapons on mobile platforms like the North Koreans and some of what the Chinese has, because they want to be able to survive a first strike, because they do, contrary to popular believe that a nuclear war is winnable. Let's not have a debate about that. All I'm saying is that we have no functional equivalent. We have the bombers, we have the submarines, we have the land-based missile silos. That is our nuclear triad. Our land-based forces are not mobile like the Russians because they want to survive a nuclear war. Anyways, what this means is that the Americans no longer know the destination of these things, and that immediately ratchets up the DEFCON level, okay? And this is the reason why you know that something big is going on. The Air Force today, the top brass removed 6 leaders at a nuclear airbase in Minot, I believe, and they gave no explanation. I think they gave a very vague explanation that they didn't feel that these people were fit to fulfill their duties. But the question is, if you wanted to keep something like this on the low, and if this wasn't an urgent play, why would they fire all 6 at the same time, is the question. You think you would do something like this piecemeal? They removed 6 leaders from their positions at a nuclear base in North Dakota. Few details were provided. Now, when I interviewed Lieutenant Colonel Jay Block, who is a nuclear missileer, I don't have the video here to show you, but you can go back in the archives and check it out. He told me that one of the most important aspects is somebody's psychological profile, making sure that they are willing to comply with the darkest order that you could possibly receive if the time comes. The pushing of the button, the turning of the key, okay, blowing the load, letting the missile out of the silo. And this could potentially be why. Maybe they do not feel that these guys, maybe they've been there for too long, and maybe they feel that they would hesitate, they would not comply with orders for some reason. Because especially now in the current climate, in light of this suspension of the nuclear treaty, people are going to become very suspicious when they get the orders. Is this real world or exercise? They must assume that it's always real world. So they're programmed like machines to follow the orders, push the buttons. Is there some psychological vetting going on here? Or is there some concerns about espionage? Something is going on. You don't just have this kind of information come out. It shouldn't come out at all. This should have been something which was kept under the radar. I don't think you would just do this purging all at once, unless the government really is that stupid and incompetent to draw attention to something like this. Fortunately, let's face it, 99% of people are perfectly content in their slumber anyways. Now, there's been a lot of other suspicious military activity taking place around the world. I don't have much time today, so we're just going to briefly touch on a few things. Obviously, there was some drone incursions into Russian airspace. One was shot down almost perfectly intact, 70 miles from Moscow, where all these little yellow helicopters is. I don't have a drone icon, so we got to use helicopters. This program needs a little bit of updating. But 5 sightings in total. There was air raids throughout Russia. There probably was a lot more drone incursions. Now, why is all this happening right now is the question. Why are the Russians being provoked in this way? We need to understand that this sacking of these guys at the six guys at the missile silos seems to coincide, of course, with Russia suspending their participation in the New START treaty. Everything is kind of converging at one point. Okay, when I say everything, we have the fall of Bakhmut, which is pretty much locked in at this point. We have information suggesting that there's going to be a new front opening up, all happening at the same time. We have the lab leak thing coming out, and suddenly it's okay to criticize a lab leak according to the US government. Okay, it's now been made, we're remonetized to talk about lab leak on all platforms thanks to the US government. Suddenly, the Russophobia has now become East phobia, okay? So that tells me that some major forces are converging here. We are getting down to crunch time in a big way. There's been a lot of suspicious military activity today. So St. Petersburg shut down their airspace. Now, some people were suggesting, well, maybe this was because there was an unidentified object, a drone, because of all these drone attempts and attacks and shoot downs today. This is the picture of one of the drones they shot down over Moscow. So they're going to try to get this and figure out what its flight path was to try to trace it back to whoever shot it. But this is more concerning, I think, because there's just a lot of dead zones on flight radar today. They are saying that they halted traffic over St. Petersburg because they wanted to do a drill. But typically, drills are not meant to interfere. Drills don't interfere with flights, with commercial flights, usually. So the fact that there's now this massive dead zone extending all the way up to St. Petersburg nearly is of great concern. Today, Finland also announced that they're going to be building a wall along their border with Russia. That's quite telling with respect to how bad things are going to get in the future. So the dead zone, and I'm talking about the air, obviously, is getting wider and wider. We got one plane coming out of Moldova, but this whole region only for essential flights right now. The Moldovans are getting ready for war. The Romanians are sending anti-aircraft, mobile anti-aircraft platforms to the Moldovan front. There's been a lot of emergency accident messages today. You can go and listen to this stuff if you care to. There's some people who do this religiously. Apparently there's been far more than there normally is in the last 24 hours, okay? What else do we need to talk about here? Let me just see here. Yeah, Transnistria is going to be holding a 3-month military exercise. Remember, there's no military exercises, only World War III disguises, as Ukraine allegedly has assembled 10 to 20,000 troops along the border and is getting ready to take over. They're also allegedly planning on coming down this way to Melitopol. So they're going to try to cut down around. Let me move this out of the way here so you can kind of see what's going on. Oh yeah, German Leopard tanks now spotted in Bakhmut. So it's officially World War III. So they're going to come around here, come around Zaporozhye, and then into Melitopol, I believe. Is that what they're... Yes, I think that's what they're doing. They're coming around. Okay, yeah. So they, as far as I know, they kind of control up to about here. So they control this side of the river. So they're going to come down. They're going to try to cut the south in half, and then they're going to try to take, backfill Crimea, so to speak. That's their plan. The Russians are saying, come and try. So it sounds like we're going to be seeing some pretty crazy stuff in the next couple weeks. And this is all now happening against the backstop of no nuclear treaties. Even in the Cold War, there was nuclear treaties. Okay, now the technology is better, and that means that we're really on a razor's edge at this point. Poland potentially preparing for strikes against Belarus and Russia's Kaliningrad enclave. Okay, we have these drills happening in St. Petersburg. I mean, that is suspicious. On the same day, you have Finland saying they're going to put up this $400 million border fence. We got Romania getting ready for a potential clash in Transnistria. Then you have this China stuff. Okay, I mean, and this is just weird to me. How is it so convenient that I took my hat off yesterday. I went on a long rant. You should go watch that video. I go into more depth. But isn't it convenient that everybody suddenly is looking up at the sky? They get that flashbulb memory of balloons burnt into their brains, whatever remains of our brains nowadays. And then all of a sudden, 4 weeks later, it's okay to criticize lab leak, even though it hasn't been for the last 3 years. That don't add up, guys. That does not add up. Clearly, there is something happening from the top down. And of course, this all happens on the exact same day, pretty much, that the Chinese release a peace proposal that even Zelensky said, hey, I'll check that out. That's because it was completely ambiguous and virtually meaningless and has absolutely no chance of success whatsoever. Like I said, guys, short video for you today. That's all I got because I got to get going. Oh, here's a few more tidbits. Chinese satellite company providing images to the Wagner Group. So the Chinese are helping the Russian intelligence where they are deficient in this conflict. So in addition to providing lots of money in exchange for resources and possibly ammunition, they're also providing intelligence. So like I said, it is turning into a proxy war between the United States and China, meaning that the two proxies are Russia and Ukraine, one of which happens to have the most nuclear weapons in the world. We have the situation here with this American spy plane off the coast of, in the Sea of Japan. And this is where North Korea tends to lob their missiles. That's why it's a no-fly zone here. And they tend to shoot missiles willy-nilly into the Sea of Japan without warning. And they've basically said, if the United States and South Koreans continue their military drills, we're going to consider that a declaration of war. So I'm not sure what exactly is going on here. Clearly, it's a statement. The Japanese are buying 400 Tomahawk missiles from the Americans. So the shizzy's getting ready to hit the fizzy, folks. And that is why you should continue to prepare, because unfortunately it's not going to be in vain. And this is how you know Taiwan is preparing for war. They're preparing to criminalize spreading rumors during wartime. So they're already getting for the information psyop. Okay, what we're seeing right now, it's going to be in languages that are not Latin based. Is Russian Latin based? I don't know. Somebody's going to chime in. Maybe it isn't. I don't know if the Cyrillic is Latin based or not. But it's going to be interesting because it's a worlds apart culture, how that's going to play out in terms of the information war. So anyways, guys, I got to get going here, but stay prepped, stay ready. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy the video. Canadian Prepper out.